We see a girl named Nina at the start of the film. She came to the U.S. on a visit visa, and now there was an issue with her legal documents and she needed money to resolve it. That's why her friend was taking her to an old man named Luther so that Nina can do some work and earn some money to fight her case. Nina asks, "What kind of a person is Luther?" In response, her friend says, "Yes, he is nice. Many girls have worked with him before and they were all happy. Don't worry, he will take care of you too." While crossing the forest, they take a break for a while. Then, a man comes to Nina while running from the forest and asks her for help. Nina gets scared and gets back in the car and says to her friend, "Maybe that man needs our help," but the girl explains to him that we can't help anyone here. There are people who live in tribes. They keep fighting each other, and if we get into their fights, then our life can be in danger. Anyway, they now reach Luther's house, where Nina's friend tells Luther that Nina has come here in search of work. Luther agrees to give her work, but says, "You know, all the girls who came here before were all unmarried, i.e., they did not have children, but Nina had a daughter too." Nina says, "No, don't worry. She is not naughty at all. She will not bother us. I will take good care of you." After that, Luther gets ready to give her work. Nina's friend now leaves from here, and Luther starts showing Nina his house, where Nina sees a lot of deer heads, about which Luther says, "I am very fond of hunting deer. I often hunt them and eat their meat, and preserve their heads and keep them at home." Luther now takes her to his room where there was an old photo. When Nina asks about it, Luther says, "This is my great-grandfather's photo at the time when we were celebrating the harvest." Anyway, night falls and everyone goes to sleep. When Nina wakes up in the morning, she sees that her daughter was not with her. She panics and comes down. She sees that Luther had not only made breakfast for himself, but he was also making breakfast for her daughter. Seeing this, Nina was a little embarrassed. She apologizes to her and says, "I will get up early from tomorrow and make your breakfast before you get up." During their conversation, suddenly they start hearing strange noises from the basement. Luther tells them not to worry, actually. "My house is near the forest, so often raccoons come to the basement. You guys have breakfast. I'll get it out." After this, Luther starts explaining the work to Nina. To Nina with a piece of meat and told her to cook this meat for dinner. Meanwhile, Luther sees that Nina was coughing a lot. He makes a strange tea for her and says if you drink it, you will never cough after today. Nina found this a little strange, but she quietly drank this tea. As she drank it, she felt dizzy and went to sleep. The next morning, she was feeling very fresh. When she woke up, she neither had a cough nor a fever. Luther comes to her room again and serves her the same tea. Even now, she had drunk it happily. When Nina was drinking it, we see that Luther is looking at her with strange eyes, as if the tea he gave her was not a tea, but a strange thing, which has a bad purpose behind making her drink it. As she drank it, Nina again fell into a deep sleep. She was not able to understand what was in it that made her sleep so much. Anyway, the next morning we see that Nina had started her work. When she was cutting wood to burn in the house, Luther comes to her and says, "I am going to do the grocery. I will come in a while, take care of everything." He had just left that a running man came here. As Nina saw this, she felt danger, so she immediately takes her daughter and goes inside the house. As Luther comes home, she tells him about that man. Hearing the name of the man, Luther started talking to her strangely. He says that this place is very dangerous. "If you see any man here, then consider him a danger for you and kill him immediately." Nina says, "How?" "I have never done this." Luther takes her outside and starts her practice to kill people. He tells Nina to kill the fawn here for practice. Nina had never killed anyone. She was just scared. Luther says furiously, "Are you crazy? You will have to kill anyone to save your daughter." Seeing Luther and Nina, the man who had come to get help from Nina comes here again. As he sees him, Luther hits his head and drops him down. Before Luther hits him more, the man screams, "I am not a danger to you. My car has broken down nearby. I just need your help to fix it." This man told his name, Andres. Luther thought that the man was telling the truth, so he brought this man home. After coming home, Andres became very good friends with Nina, and Luther also noticed this. He allows Andres to stay here for 2 days, because it was their harvest festival after 2 days. Nina was very happy with the decision to stay at his house. Luther also took the responsibility of fixing his car. At the same time, Luther has given Andres the same tea that he used to give Nina every day. After it, Luther goes to sleep and Nina starts cleaning the kitchen. Andres comes to the kitchen to help her and sees the wine in the kitchen. He asks Nina, "Why don't we drink wine tonight?" Nina says, "No, actually, this is Luther's house. I have to do everything with his permission. I am just a maid here." After this conversation, they go to sleep. Nina wakes up at midnight and sees a man wearing deer's horns outside her window. She gets scared, but when she blinks, no one is there. It was her imagination. The next morning, she wakes up and doesn't find her daughter in bed. She panics and searches the house, but her daughter isn't there, and when she comes out, she finds her daughter playing with Luther. She hurriedly hugs her daughter, and at this time she sees 3 men wearing deer masks. Seeing them, she gets scared. She wants to tell this to Luther, but before she tells him, they disappear. Luther says, "I think you are hallucinating. Did you have wine last night? You will not do anything here without my permission." After that, he tells Nina to make some preparations because there will be guests at night. Hearing Luther, she goes behind him into a room to do the preparations where she sees a book in which there were the men she was seeing in her hallucinations. Before she asks Luther anything, he scolds her and says, "Your habits are ruining. Leave this book. Don't you dare to touch my things without my permission, otherwise it will be bad for you." After it, he gives Nina a dress and asks her to be ready at night while wearing it. "You have to look good at night." Nina gets ready in that dress at night and comes in front of his guests with her daughter. She comes in front of guests and finds them behaving strangely. Noticing this, she takes Andres upstairs with her and talks to him that they are behaving weirdly. Andres was also agreeing because he also noticed this. Andres says, "I feel something is wrong here. We can leave if you want. I have a room and you can stay there. I can also resolve your money problem. I have some money and a job as well. You work for me and I will pay you for this." Nina says, "No. I have a contract with Luther and I can't leave him." Andres says, "Okay, then stay safe here. Keep your eyes open." During this, Luther comes, who calls them downstairs, and they start enjoying their party. After it, Luther says to Andres, "Your car is fixed and our party is also done. You can leave if you want," and then he leaves with Andres from there. He takes him to his private room, where he had forbidden Nina to go. Andres's facial expression changes when he steps into that room. It seems like he is scared to see the things and the environment there. Nina also comes out of the house while finding Andres, and she again sees a man wearing deer's mask. She has accepted that she is hallucinating, so she diverts her attention, and when she again sees there was none, she has come out to find Andres. Luther also comes behind her and says, "If you are here to find Andres, so let me tell you, he has left," and then gives her the drink he used to give her daily. Nina faints having that drink. They take her inside, but she opens her eyes for a while and she sees. She lay down on a white table with many people standing around her, performing a ritual. The scene cuts, and we see Nina finds herself on the bed. When she wakes up, her clothes were changed like she did every night. She felt what she saw was her dream. After it, she starts her routine tasks, but while cleaning, she finds blood on the floor. She gets surprised to see this and thinks about whose blood it would be. She feels something wrong, and to find out this, she goes to Luther's room where she finds a wooden box in the cupboard, having so many pictures showing that during the harvest festival, the people of their community eat human flesh. They are cannibals, humans who eat humans. There was a book having all the information about their community. Before she could read it, she hears Luther's coming. She hurriedly shuts everything and comes out. Luther was in the basement at this time, so she went to see him. Someone was screaming in the basement, and when Luther comes out, there was a knife in his hand. Nina panics to see this. She feels it is Andres's voice that was coming from the room. Luther says, "Don't go inside this room." Even though Luther forbade her, Nina went to that room at midnight. Luther knew she would go there today, so he stayed awake and caught her before she entered the room. He said, "Don't make such a mistake again after today. Just do what I say." The next day, when Luther goes for groceries, she hides her daughter inside the house and comes to the basement with a knife. When she couldn't open the door with the knife, she broke it down with an axe. She was astonished when she went inside because Andres was there. Her suspicion was right. Luther had taken out his eyes. She decided to help Andres and left, taking him with her. She also lifts up her daughter, but before they could escape, Luther comes and captures them. He made them unconscious with a shotgun. Nina comes to her senses and finds herself tied in her room. Luther brings food and the drink for her, which he gives her daily. Nina refuses to eat it. Luther says, "Don't eat if you don't want to, but if you disobey me, I will harm your daughter." Nina has to obey his orders, even she doesn't want to, and she has that drink. At night, Luther wears clothes like his elders, a strange coat, and deer's horns after it. He comes to Nina, seeing him. Nina understands that the one whom she sees daily isn't her hallucinations, but Luther. He takes Nina with him to the washroom and asks her to take off her clothes and take a shower in front of him. Nina starts taking a shower. Luther says, "You can't be a part of our festival until you become pure." He says to Nina, "I will brought up your daughter according to my community." Hearing all this, Nina was about to attack him furiously, but Luther drowns her in the bathtub. Afterward, he takes her head out of the bathtub and says, "Just cooperate with us." Saying this, he leaves. Now the next morning, we see Nina sitting worried and Luther comes to her with food. He was about to feed her, but Nina says, "Please let me meet my daughter once." Luther says, "I will, but first you have this food." Nina had the food, after which Luther goes to the basement. We see he has killed Andres, and now he was cutting meat for the feast of his guests at night. Nina was unconscious because of Luther's drink. She regains consciousness and finds herself at the dining table. Luther's cult was also present there. Nina's friend was also there who brought Nina to Luther's house. Nina understands that she is also a part of Luther's cult. Here, Luther reads the book that he always hides from Nina. After reading the book, he says, "Now we will suck our prey's blood." It was Andres's blood in the glasses in front of them. They lift the glasses and sip it. After it, Luther removes the lid of the dish. There was Andres's cut and roast face. They were about to eat that roasted head. Seeing this, Nina panics and starts vomiting because of this, their party ruin. The cult members criticize Luther, saying that their party was ruined because of his member. Luther becomes furious and takes her to the basement and ties her there. We see Nina's daughter there, through whom Nina gets released. There were knives, guns, and many other things in the basement. She picks up a knife and then takes a shotgun. Now she doesn't want to leave those despicable people alive. She wants to kill all of them. She sees a boy as she comes out. The boy gets scared to see gun in Nina's hand. He says, "Please don't kill me," but Nina doesn't listen to him and shoots him. Hearing the voice, they become alert. Luther, who went to see off Nina's friend, also turns back to the house. As Nina moves towards Luther's personal room where he always forbade her to go, before she opens the door, Nina's friend attacks her from behind, unaware that Nina is fully prepared. She is killed when Nina injured her neck with a knife. After this, she opens the door to the room and sees strange things, the severed parts of humans. She is scared to see this, but for now, she must be brave and escape while taking the key. Before she can find the key, she hears Luther approaching. She gets ready with a gun to kill Luther. As Luther appears in front of her, she shoots him, and the bullet hits his hand, indicating he didn't die. Luther somehow controls over Nina and locks her in a box. Then he goes to her daughter. He would have caught her daughter and made her a part of his ritual, but before this, Nina releases herself from the box and reaches there in time to save her daughter. She controls Luther from behind to save her daughter. As she pulls him back, his crown falls and stabs Nina's foot. She feels severe pain, but doesn't leave Luther. Then she pulls the crown from her foot and stabs him with it. Luther dies there. The next morning, she leaves in Luther's car. At the end of the story, we are told that often people disappear in the U.S. and are never found. Here, this movie concludes.